Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the program. Um, I'm yours truly, Toyin Ajolore. Well, this week's edition is going to be very educative, informative, and what have you. Today, we're going to be discussing mental health today. And guess what? I have somebody that has the right qualification to discuss on this topic. Would you like to know what it is all about? You've been hearing mental health here and there, but I tell you, this particular interview will educate you more on what it is really. I'm being joined by a mental health professional who graduated from the University of Mercer in Atlanta, Georgia, with a PhD in mental health counseling. And currently she is on her second doctorate degree. She is also working on a master's in applied neuroscience. And to crown it all, she is a clergy. I think that's the ultimate job one can do. She is Dr. Eniabitobi Kuyinu. Thank you very much for joining us. If I can add, she's my big sister. Yes, it's my show, so she's my mommy. But the beauty of it is that she's well educated and she still serves the Lord. Thank you for joining us, Ma, on the program. So let's start with this question. What is mental health? So many things have been happening in society. People have been, there was a case in Makodi where a wife killed her husband and her children. Is that mental health related in any way?
It's interesting, when we ask about issues of mental health. Mental health issues are issues to do with the mind, the emotions, mind and emotional wellness and well-being. And just like you have physical health, we have mental health. And just like every one of us at one time or the other are impacted and affected by some form of physical issue, whether it's a headache, whether it is stomachache, whether it is backache, or you fell down and broke your hand, or you stepped on a stone or something. It's the same way that at some point in our life we will be impacted by one form of mental health issue, whether it is anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. That is, you have something happen to you, and as a result of that you have flashbacks, whether it is loss of a spouse, whether it is relational. Do you know that even for couples, having erectile dysfunction issues can be a mental health issue?
Wow.
And so mental health issue is something that someone at one point or the other will experience because we go through life. Stress is a mental health issue. And then a lot of mental health issues also result in physical health issues. Just like physical health issues will also result in mental health issues because we are a holistic person. We are holistic. We are a whole. So you cannot, you can't separate the two. It's unfortunate that we have tried to separate the two and stigmatize mental health, but you cannot, because the mind is the control center of the whole body. And sometimes the mind is stressed, and sometimes things happen that causes the mind, to not to perform optimally. So that causes the nervous system not to perform optimally. And it's just a reality of life. And so mental health issues are issues we need to talk about, we need to face, especially in our society today, especially with the fact that the world has become a global village, especially with the fact that we are running more towards urbanization and adopting and imbibing cultures that are not our natural culture. And so as a result of that, a lot of mental health issue is coming out of that.
Wow. That is insightful. But if I may ask, is it something we can, is it everybody started this feeling? You talked about it being a general thing, that at some point in everybody's life, they will have a mental health issue. I stand to be corrected, but why did you say that, ma'am?
Let me ask you, have you ever had a headache?
Yes.
Have you ever had a stomach ache?
Yes.
Have you ever maybe cut your finger?
Yes. Yes.
The same way as you've answered yes to that, have you ever been sad?
Of course, even today, I was almost feeling sad because I'm almost losing a very important hard drive to me.
Okay.
Hard drive, just because of hard drive.
Okay. Okay. Have you ever reached a point where you are confused and you really don't know what to do or where to turn to?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, have you ever, experienced tension on your neck, on your back,
Yes.
because of some issues that you are going through?
Mm-hmm.
All those are mental health issues. And so the way you said yes to all the physical health issues I've mentioned, and you've said yes to some of those mental health issues I've mentioned, is the same way every single one of us have mental health issue. It is not madness. It is a reality. It is something that we go through. You cannot be in this world. You cannot go through life without experiencing some form of mental health issue. It's not possible. It's not possible. It is the issue. The problem now is when you don't have the resources within you to manage it. And so if my being anxious ends up becoming anxiety disorder, some of us are obsessive compulsive. You find, and we laugh about it, but it is when it becomes it hampers your daily activity, then it really becomes like a serious issue. There are so many of us, you might have friends or cousins that if you keep something on this table, and then they keep something on this table, and then you take it, and you don't return it back to that same exact spot that you took it from, it is an issue for them.
That's true. There are people like that.
There are people like that.
They are too organized.
There are people like that, and that can be a mental health issue. So definitely mental health issue is an issue that will affect everybody. Even children can be born with trauma. Even during the birth process is traumatizing. And then when, for instance, some of them, you pull their head, you use forceps, and then they come out with some form of trauma or the other, it can affect them and cause developmental issues. We have different kind of issues with children, and a lot of these issues do not just do not resolve themselves automatically. It enters into adulthood. So I was really moved by the mental health issues with women in our culture.
Doctor, you mentioned that mental health affects our physical health. Can you cite some examples?
Okay. In medicine, we have some health issues which we call psychosomatic. That is, you do all the tests you know how to do physically. You cannot find any organic reason for that sickness. You can't pinpoint anything in the body. And I was very intrigued by that. What is the origin? What is the cause of these psychosomatic issues? And with research, we found out that many of them are as a result of mental health issues. In addition to that, and so you have things like irritable bowel syndrome. It's highly linked to mental health issue. Ulcer is linked to mental health issue. Even your susceptibility to infections is linked to mental health issues, because basically mental health stress will suppress your immune system, the soldiers and the warriors in your body. And when they are suppressed, because there are germs all over the place, there are microorganisms, you have the parasites, you have the virus that are trying to enter into your system. When your immune system, the soldiers parading your body, when they are compromised, then you fall sick easily. One of the commonest one is the common cold. You find that you start having common cold, it's easy for you to have malaria and all of that. And so you find out that when your immune system, when you have some level of mental health stress, you find out that your immune system is compromised. In addition to that, I actually did my PhD study on associating emotional trauma and then perceived stress reactivity in women with uterine fibroid. And the result that I got showed that women with perceived stress reactivity, meaning that women that are more reactive, they react more to stressful events. Their threshold level is low. And as a result of, almost like they've primed themselves to be reactive. And then my research also shows that this reactivity can be even from the womb. Meaning that when a mother is pregnant and she's going through a lot of emotional stress and trauma, and she can actually release, she's releasing cortisol, stress hormone. The cortisol is able to cross through the placenta into the baby. And then that also then increases the baby's receptor to cortisol. And so the baby is born with a heightened ability for cortisol, stress hormone. Do you understand that? So that is, the baby is primed for reactivity. And so my research shows that women that have high stress reactivity actually had bigger size of fibroids. They are fibroids. And we know from study that fibroids are stimulated to grow more by production of sex hormone, the estrogens, progesterone. And there are pathways, scientific pathways that shows that the production of cortisol, and I don't want to speak too much of this grammar for your viewers that don't understand what I'm saying. But the simple thing is that stress and all of that is not good, and can cause women that have uterine fibroid for the fibers to start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you have all kind of issues that, and that makes sense. For me is that, especially in the African society where we don't have the opportunity to have anybody to really talk to, and people are going through a lot. We don't in our hospitals, we don't have a mental health unit.
Coming to that, yes.
In our primary health care centers, we don't have mental health issues.
Most times for maternity related care,
yes,
and treatment of malaria, but I've not heard a primary health care person center treating mental health issues. So I really want to hear from you. Why is that so, and what would be your recommendation?
It's because for a long time we've had a protective society, a society that is communal, that is like a community, has its own protective, but it's protective. And there are people that are around to talk to you. People don't leave you alone when you are sad and all of that. There are people to ask you what is wrong and get involved in your issues. And so we grew up in that kind of communal community environment. But unfortunately, with globalization and urbanization and all of that, we are losing fast the protectiveness that is derived from that kind of society. And we've entered into a lifestyle, a society that is becoming very individualistic, in which you can be in your house for 1 year or 6 months, and really nobody is interested in what is happening to you. Nobody is asking you what is the problem. Nobody is interested in feeding. Nobody is interested in your face being squeezing.
What are you going through?
When was the last time? How many people have asked you that?
Oh my God.
How are you feeding?
Yes.
So those kind of questions where you are hungry, even if you don't have money. If by the time you visit 4 houses, you would have had a meal. I mean, I used to, in those days in the village, There are some people that will go from different are waiting for burial because for 1 month they know that there's free food.
There's free food. Yeah.
But you see, all of that is gone now, and we live in a world.
Of
Before, when I was growing up, my neighbors will say, it takes a village to raise a child. My mother was a single mom, and if she's not around, by the time she's coming back from work, she has information on where I went, what I did, what I didn't do. I said, which one is this people's own? But it is protective. You have people, and they will tell me, they will say, see, your mother is not the only one raising you. We are also raising you. And my mother will thank them. They will say, we will beat her for you. And so you had a protectiveness, you know, you had this, yes, from the communal environment. There was some level of protection that comes with for mental health. And so we felt we didn't really need a specialized or a mental health institution or mental health services or all of that. But the reality is that that is changing, and that has changed. And we have to be honest about that. And the fact that if we want to take on the Western culture and the Western way of living, then we are taking on the Western man's problems. And then we have to also look at the Western solution.
Okay, so yes, I'm coming to that. Now, okay, what are the solutions? If there is a problem, it should be maybe a solution, a near solution or a perfect solution. So what would you suggest? I am aware that there is a training you actually came to do in town, and it's a great privilege for me to be seated here with you, an expert on mental health. It's very rare to find people that have a good grasp of this, should I say, aspect of health. So please tell us more about your training and what you stand, from your own standpoint. What what value is it going to add to the lives of the people that will train and our society at large?
So thank you so much for that question, because you see, we can talk from now till tomorrow about the problems. What is most important is talking about solutions. And that is, I'm proactive with solutions. One solution, there are various ways that we can tackle this. One way is really establishing and having advocates, people on board that are really passionate about this and can push this. Having policies, that encourages mental health, developing mental health services. And you have people that are managing that, people that are passionate about it, to see that we are establishing mental health services and units. One. Number two, encouraging the training of more professionals, and not just guidance and counseling, as from the level of education, but clinical mental health. Developing mental health clinics and internships where people are trained. For instance, I did my training in the US. I did my master's and PhD in mental health. The theory part was small, very small. From when I was doing my master's, from the first semester, we had to observe, be in clinics, observe other therapists working, write cases on them. By the second semester, there was an on-site clinic. We were in that clinic. When we finished lecture at 1, we'll be in the clinic from 1 till 9 p.m. Seeing patients, writing case notes. So we had hands-on experience with working with people from a clinical point of view. It's time for us to enter into that realm as a country, where our counseling, psychology, and all of that is more clinical based, not just academic. Then for government to sponsor more people. There was a time when America realizes that they had a need for mental health professionals. When after, I think it was the Second World War, many soldiers were coming with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and there was a need to help them. What the government did was to put out scholarship out there for people to go and study mental health so that they could help these people. I was in Meduguri in January on a medical mission with Pro Health International, and just some few hours drive from Sambisa Forest. And you had some soldiers that were in the Sambisa Forest coming to the medical outreach. And I remember my heart was broken because they were like, one of them said, many of us are like almost mad. He came out and he said, it's as if something is biting my body all over. And it is not, it's part of the psychosomatic. There was really nothing biting his body, but he had gotten the anxiety and the fear is so much that, you know, it has started manifesting in his body. And as I talked to him, he said, Madam, why won't you please, can you tell our government to please attend to us, provide us with opportunity to see specialists, to see people that can help us. The reality is that somebody like that will leave after some years, will be reintegrated back into the society without any form of help, without any form of rehabilitation, without any form of treatment. And you expect that person to live normally again after that experience. And so you find out that there's a need for us to really take a good look at how are we caring for ourselves as citizens, are we caring for our people, are we caring for people that are serving the nation,
especially in today's world,
especially in the world we are in today, which is different from how the world used to be. So, you know, training more professionals, but then beyond that, even in developing countries now, they are finding that there's no way you can train enough professionals to meet the mental health needs. And so part of what is being done is to train non-professionals to be mental health facilitators.
Okay.
And that is part of what I'm developing. I'm actually doing a test run, you know, and using already existing curriculum. There are curriculum by World Health, there are curriculum by NBCC, they are different, and just looking at developing with some of my colleagues from Richmond Graduate University, Atlanta, putting together some of this curriculum to develop something that is culturally adaptable, you know. And I did a test run of that in June in Lagos. I brought some of my colleagues from Richmond University to run a week-long training, and then we were in Anambra, and then I'm in Abuja. So it's almost like a pilot project. First of all, do a test run of this, how this information can go out, how can we train non-mental health professionals, and then see what they can do with it. Then take that information back and really develop the curriculum in such a way that we can really, it can be very useful. So right now we are here, we are being supported by my non-profit, The Educator, being supported by Conscience International from the US, and then Pro Health International and Women Without Walls. It's amazing. We have we invited different people for this test run. We invited people from NDLEA, from prison, from youths and the primary health care unit. We actually have my cousin, amazing, I'm so proud of her, Hajia Fatima Shinkafi, actually got a bus load from Zamfara. She sponsored from very traumatic issues. Yes, she sponsored 12 people from Zamfara to come and attend the training. You know, and that is, I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of her. Yes, and so we are doing this test run and doing this training to train people as mental health facilitators, and then eventually we will take some of them and train them as lead facilitators, and then from there take it to the next level and see some that we can also now train in a more clinical mental health. And I'm hoping, you know, it's all of this. We invited all these government parastatals to come free.
Yes, at no cost.
At no cost.
Free of charge. Did you?
Yes.
Wow.
And thank God to our partners that you know, Pro Health International, Conscience International, that has this burden to partner with The Educator to achieve this. And I look forward to an opportunity to see more organizations, more MDAs really getting involved in this, because this is a worthwhile venture. You know, we need to love us. We need to love one another. It doesn't matter where we are from, which country, which state we are from, which religion we practice. There's just a basic thing that we need to love ourselves. We need to help ourselves.
Yes.
You know, we need to. There was a time I was saying to a friend, and I said, our mortality, maternal health, the mortality rate, you know, is one of the worst. It's like the second. Research shows that we are second to India. And I said there are countries that are poorer than us. So take note of this. It is not because of poverty that we have that. It is not because there is not enough food or we are poor. There are many countries that don't have as much, you know, money that as we have,
Resources,
but
yes.
they are not. But that is not the case. The reason a lot is our mental health issue. If when a mother, as I said before, in pregnancy, if she's emotionally stressed, because she's unhappy, because she's depressed, because she's been abused, then a baby will experience high level of cortisol passing into the placenta. Cortisol depresses the immune system. The baby is born with a depressed immune system. So by the time a baby is born from a womb that is almost like sterile into an environment that is not sterile, the baby has to learn to fight to survive. Now, the immune system is important, and then the baby is not has a depressed immune system. The baby is unable in the first few years of life to effectively fight. And so even our maternal center, our midwives and nurses, we need to train people on how to identify depression, identify anxiety, deal with issues of domestic violence. You know, there are just so many issues.
So many.
Child sexual abuse has gone on the increase.
Yes.
As
please
I talk,
about it.
everywhere I go to, it is so
It is bad.
sad. Child sexual abuse
It's
by everybody.
5 years old.
Yes, people are sexually abused by their father, uncles, neighbors. It's difficult to keep your child with anybody anymore. And part of the reason, as I said, these are all the evils of urbanization, development, globalization. You know, that is, as much as we thank God for the gains, there are also some negative sides to it that we need to manage. Pornography is everywhere. You go online, the environment is highly sexualized. Because it's highly sexualized, you know, the vulnerables become the victims. Children are vulnerable and they are available.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And so because they are vulnerable and available, they are easily, you know, abused. It's not as if we didn't have that in the past. I mean, I won't say that people were not abusing children 40, 50 years ago. But the rate now is reaching an epidemic state.
It is.
You know,
It is.
there is addiction, alcohol. We have issues of alcohol and sex addiction. So we need to be proactive in also solving this issue. It's not going to the hospital and giving drugs that is going to help it. It is having people trained to be able to attend to the needs of people.
There is also an increase of suicide in. Is it related? I guess it's related by what you have, discussed with us today on the show. Being a clergy, we can wrap it up. We can wrap this discussion up on that aspect. What would you say, being a clergy, about mental health? Is there any link? Is there any way? Is there any scripture? Is there anything you can say?
It's
Like
interesting that
spiritual.
you've asked me that, because my journey towards mental health was stirred up by the Bible.
Wow.
And so my desire to learn more about mental health was stirred up by scriptures that says a merry heart doeth good like medicine.
Okay.
You know, that there's something about laughter and joy. You know, it's medicine to the bones. And so the more I read those scriptures about a merry heart does medicine, and all of that, I'm like, so you mean if my heart is merry, if my heart is okay, if I'm happy and all of that, it helps me, my health. It helps my complete state of well-being. And so I really became more interested in mental health as a result of that. Also, as a clergy, I was involved for years in rehabilitation of girls that has been sexually abused girls, girls that are trafficked into sex work. And then I did a lot of work with youths. And the more I did that, the more I found out that, a lot of their issues are related to the issues at home. Psychological issues, words that have been said to them. Some of the youths will say, you are the first person saying these positive things to us. And so the more I worked as a clergy, the more I discovered that there was such a need for mental health issue. Even in the church, you have a lot of people that come in and, we pray for them and all of that. But there is also a need to sit with them, to really work with them, to be able to process their trauma and help them find true healing. And so for me, it's not one without the other. There is a wellness that comes from also being in a good relationship with your maker. There's a wellness that comes from there. And my approach to wellness is a holistic approach. And so when I talk about mental health, I talk about psychosocial-spiritual wellness. Psychosocial-spiritual wellness. That is my own approach to mental health.
Wow. I've been inspired, I've been well informed, I've been educated about what mental health is really about. And who else can do justice to this topic than someone that is trained, that has a PhD degree, right? Is it
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Yes, in mental health counseling, and all the way from the United States of America, the Mercer University, Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks very much for obliging to sit with us to talk about mental health. I believe you've learned a thing or two about mental health. If there's anything bothering your mind, then look for a professional, not someone that will even let out your personal issues, to people that don't even qualify to solve your problem. Rather, they would even take it, they would even
Escalate it.
Health, what you should do, who you should see. Yes, I should add that and spell it out. That when you know that you are stressed and have mental health issues, you should try and reach people that are trained, like Dr. Eniabitobi, Kuyinu. And that's why she's even in Nigeria, to even train people to be experts on mental health services. To know one thing, she's my mommy. As in, when I was a teenager, she's still my mentor. But from those days, back in the day, she was my mom. My mom even handed me over to her. She's a fantastic woman, beautiful mother one can have. So thank you very much for joining us on the program. I like you. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Toyin Ajolore. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.